All right, so welcome. We got another Crease talk here with. I'm excited to have Chris Mason because we got a connection going way back to our Red Deer days over 20 years ago. And growing up, Mace was one of the goalies that I idolized and watched him play with the Red Deer Optimist Chiefs, and sort of inspired a whole group of goalies that in Red Deer that made it to the our Western Hockey League. There was about 6 or 7 of us, all around the same time. So. Chris is now with the Nashville Predators as a television color analyst. So we're excited to have Chris join us, and of course, Cam Lanigan is here as well.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. This is great.
Yeah, I was just gonna say thanks, Kev. It's crazy that when you say 20 years ago, it might have even been longer, but it was cool. We had a bunch of guys back in the day coming up, and that's when the attendees there, we had a few good ones back there in the day, and you went on there and you got to play with my buddy Scott Myers and PG for a bit and went on a great career. So thanks for having me on.
Yeah, obviously we'll touch on that. You had 4 years in the Western League, started in Victoria, and then moved to a quick stint with Victoria, right, in the 1 year, and then on to PG, correct?
Yeah, I went to Victoria, and we were terrible. I made the team. I can't believe I made the team to begin with, but my dad, I wasn't going to graduate high school that year, and I was the backup, and I was hardly playing, and when I did, it was getting smoked. So my dad decided it was probably in my best interest to come home. He really wanted me to graduate high school, get my schooling done before I went away and played, especially if it was going to be that situation. So that's the year I came back and played my second year in midget for the Optimist Chiefs, and it ended up being a blessing. I actually met my wife that year too, so it was kind of funny. But I came back, and then I went to PG when the team, the Cougars, moved there from Victoria to Prince George.
And back in that time, the Prince George franchise, I mean, it was sellouts every night. It was a tough building to play in. It was a really fun atmosphere, and you were fortunate enough to go on a pretty good playoff run there as well, and had a lot of success there in the playoffs too. So. What was it like playing there, especially when the fans were just nuts back then?
Well, I loved it. I mean, Prince George, a blue-collar town. They just got the team. They had the Spruce Kings, which is obviously a great organization in the junior A ranks. And so we were both playing. The first year, we were both playing out of the Memorial Arena downtown, and they were selling out both games. So they were thankful to get the Western Hockey League. And we weren't very good. We had younger players, and the first couple of years we really struggled. But the fans they loved the game there, and as you know. And the third year, finally, we were able to put it together there at the end and made a good run. We had Zdeno Chara. It was his first year in North America. I remember he started out that year. He came over from Slovakia. Had to buy him all his winter clothes. I mean, the guy was 6'9". He had balance problems. His skating wasn't great, but as that year went on, he turned into an unbelievable hockey player. Every tough guy in the league wanted to fight him. He'd never fought before. And so he eventually taught himself how to fight. He was like just a freak of nature in terms of how strong he was and hard he worked. So he was pounding guys left and right. Yeah, we went on a good run, but it was awesome. The fans there were amazing. They really liked that underdog blue collar type of hockey team, and that's kind of what we were back in the day. And it was awesome. And I was thankful. You come from Red Deer, your dreams playing in the Western Hockey League back then. Maybe now I'd probably go the junior A route, to be honest with you, if I had a choice now. But back then, you remember they pushed everybody to go. If you could play in the Western Hockey League, to go there. And school wasn't as highly scouted. So I ended up going, playing the junior rank, and got a great opportunity in Prince George. And it was had a great 3 years there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, go ahead, Lenny.
Those would be the heyday years when they got all the sellout pictures blown up.
Yeah.
Run around the concourse. It was a little bit different story, especially in my 5 years we were playing in there. It was kind of a bit of a dead house, but yeah, those were like the glory days they kept talking about. And then they got a second wave of it with like Buffalo and stuff, right? Who would have come just after you?
Yeah, they had Ham Hughes, Buffalo. They had some good players go through there, and they still continued to to put up some good crowds. I know they're struggling. I think I don't know if it was the last 5 or 6 years, but a few of the former players, Eric Brewer, Dan Hamhuis, have taken part in some of the ownership to try to get that program going again. But Yeah, it's tough. Junior hockey's tough, and that's maybe a city it goes up and down, but they hopefully they get back on track. We'll be interested to see how all the teams come out of the this whole quarantine thing, and see if the teams can come out okay and maybe regroup and try to come up with a game plan to start marketing better and get some fans in the seats after.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it'll certainly be a different dynamic in junior A hockey. Even the Western League CHL. It's going to be be interesting to see what happens, transpires over the next few months to get that back rolling. So fast forward now, we go 18 years of pro hockey, from the American League, the IHL, which a lot of our listeners won't know what that is, but IHL, and then time in the NHL, obviously Nashville, St. Louis, Winnipeg. So certainly a long career, a long pro career, lots of success. You found yourself over in Norway during the lockout, correct?
Yeah, I went to Norway. I love playing over there. It's funny, especially once you retire. It's kind of when you're going through it, you just go through it, and you're so mentally focused that once your dream is to get there, and then once you get there, it's hard to even stay there. So you're just really focused on that and try to enjoy the moment. And a lot of my career in the NHL is a backup goaltender, so you always want to be the starter, but there's times where you finally get there, and usually you're the starter all the way through the minors, and then you get to the NHL, and it's like a skilled player gets there, and he's got to take on a checking role if he wants to stay in the National Hockey League. And so that was a challenge for me and a lot of goalies, I think, is to really find out how to change your mental preparation to prepare for games when you're only going to play. Like my first year, I think I only played, I don't even know, 15 or 16 games. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I was playing behind Thomas Vokoun, and that's when they used to run guys like 70 games. They'd play their starting goaltender. It didn't matter if they were rolling, they kept rolling and rolling. You get the odd, second game of a back-to-back. And that's kind of when I really learned to change my mindset and my preparation as a goaltender, because I knew that if I didn't perform when I got my chance, that, hey, there's going to be another guy, there's going to be another super prospect that they got in the system that'll take my job, no problem, or they'll just trade for a guy that's more capable. So it was cool. And I look back now and I watch the games on TV and stuff when I'm doing the games, and it's crazy to think that I was able to fool him for that long and get that career. But yeah, you mentioned Norway. I went over there, and that was after my first year in the National Hockey League, and Scott Hartnell was over there. And I had a couple opportunities to go to Germany and a couple other places, but since I wasn't a proven guy, they wouldn't let me have an out clause to go back if the NHL resumed. So I was sitting at home in October, and Scott Hartnell called me and said, hey, we need a goalie. They're going to let you, go back if the NHL starts up. So we went over there, and we ended up winning a championship together. But it was so cool. Europe, European hockey. I'm sure you guys have some guys that have played over there and have played there. It's a great. It's like they chant the whole game. Bigger ice surface. As a goaltender, you have to adjust. A lot more room behind the net. Different kind of shots. Completely different game. They hold on to the puck a lot more in the offensive zone. So the East-West is a lot different, and finding your right angle points where the shots are coming from is different. So that was a great experience. It helped me play, adjust for international hockey later on in my career as well.
Yeah, because you later on you went to Italy. I believe you won a championship there as well in Italy, and then finished in Germany in the DEL. Is that right?
Yeah, after my last year in the NHL, which was 2013 with the Predators in Nashville here, and I was older. I think I was 39 at the time, or 38, turning 39. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I knew my career was coming to an end. In the National Hockey League, I had an opportunity to go for a tryout in Florida the next year, but my family was getting to the point where my oldest was. I wanted to give her some roots, and I didn't want to keep chasing that. So we went over to Italy. I talked to the coach there. They had half the team was North American guys, and just wanted a really awesome family experience. I was home every night and got to spend a ton of time with the kids, and it was the most beautiful place I'd ever seen in my life. It was in Ritten, and it's close. It's about an hour north of Innsbruck, Austria, south of Innsbruck, Austria, up in this mountain town. And it was just a great experience. And we ended up, we won a championship there, which is really cool. It's a German-speaking town in Italy. Their first language in northern Italy is German. They used to be part of Austria, but went over there and it was great. There's a lot of ex-NHLers, ex-American League guys. And, so that was the bulk of your team. And then you have, a really good Italian line, really couple good Italian defensemen. And then you have, your fourth line or maybe third set of defensemen is really young Italian kids. They want to have those guys in there and learn from, the imports and the older Italian guys. And it was awesome. Yeah, it was a great experience. And then Germany was just, last year we had so much fun over there. We just did it again. And then I moved back here to Nashville after that.
What was it like coming out of the lockout? Because you would have seen two different NHLs, right? Like two different kind of brands of hockey. Did going over to Norway and having that kind of free-flowing, a lot less obstruction, stuff like that, maybe a little bit more. I mean, they didn't change the surface of the ice in terms of dimensions too much, I don't think, after that lockout, but obstruction calls came in big, right? So speed of the game picked up. Was that different?
Yeah, that's a great question, Lanny, actually, because it was different because they did have all the clutching and grabbing. That's when they really wanted to try to, they cut down the goaltending equipment size, which they try to do every time they, make adjustments. But the biggest thing was that clutching and grabbing because the game got a lot faster. There ended up being way more east-west plays coming into the zone because you didn't have a guy clutching and grabbing you back, so you had the freedom to skate in, get your head up. You didn't have to, remember the old shot was come down the wing, drive, shoot the puck, and then drive to the net. So you'd have a lot of that traffic coming at you.
Yeah.
Now guys were holding up, they were delaying. The guys without the puck obviously couldn't get held up either.
Yeah.
So I feel like that one. Because before that, a lot of my goalie instruction, I had Mitch Korn, and he's done a good job of evolving with the game and changing with the way that the goaltending position from when I started to now has just changed immensely. And back then, we spent a lot of time of getting, it's still good to do, obviously, but A to B on your feet.
Yeah.
So, going cross ice, and he'd want us to stay up as long as we can, even if they're shooting. We really took a lot of pride in reading the stick blade and reading the body language, and if they're going to go high, to try to stay up a little more and a little longer. And I think what that did was help. It made guys adapt, like when the Carey Prices of the world started coming around and really being efficient playing down and starting using your edges a lot more on the ice.
Yeah.
So that really did change, and I think that was a big catalyst for to the way that you guys teach goaltenders now. To play like that, you can't be as aggressive. You can't come out that far because you get stuck out so far. And then, when you're going across to get the pass, it's such a big push, and there's almost two pushes at times. Now guys are barely getting outside the blue anymore. When you used to come, a couple feet outside the crease to try to cut down that angle.
Yeah.
Now guys, you can stop the puck if you're at the top of the blue, or even if your feet are inside, depending on the situation. There was a lot of big changes after that lockout.
I guess watching Marc-Andre Fleury would kind of be the last really aggressive guy that's been able to consistently do it.
Yeah, and it's just, when he came into the league, you just saw this kid. He was just, it used to be I'm only 6 feet, but any of the big guys, they were just these big blocking guys, and some of the smaller guys were quick, but they had no structure. And that's, when Marc-Andre Fleury came in, he didn't really either. He was super aggressive, the super athlete.
Yeah.
He could skate, and he could get down and come way out and push and battle back, and he's a really good scrambler. Now, a couple of the guys, I think he's done a really good job of evolving to the, the new technical side of goaltending. Pecorine has also done a really good job here, who I get to watch a lot of, really adapting to the new style of goaltending, and that's why they're still playing at that age. But yeah, Marc-Andre Fleury, you see him still. He gets out there, he'll read the situation, he'll get out and scramble back, but he's really, like everybody's just really dialed that down. But there are times when he gets out there.
Yeah, with the pads too or something.
Oh, you gotta love those now. When those are on the highlight reels. When you see the old pad stack come back, it's unreal. He's awesome. Yeah, the old poke check with the pad stack when they're cutting across.
The windmill, yeah.
Oh man, I could never do that.
That's awesome. You mentioned Mitch Korn there, who's obviously a legend in our industry, but I'd like to sort of talk about the evolution of the goalie coach over your career, because I imagine when you started, you were probably on your own, and the specific instruction was pretty limited. And then I would imagine at some point in your career, you probably really got a resurgence of, new techniques that came into your game. I noticed when I watched you play, even just simple things like proper recovery and rotation that were never a part of your game, all of a sudden are, you know, you got to make these changes and you're in the NHL. Like, how hard was that?
It was hard. It really was, because, as you know, Swanee, when we were growing up, I never had a goalie coach. The odd time that, you know, there'd someone come out in minor hockey and say, hey, cut down the angle. And, you know, there's no instruction, right? And even in junior, I didn't have a goalie coach. My first year pro, I didn't have a goalie coach. And then Mitch Korn was the first one that really took me under his wing and made me understand what goaltending was, because I would just, like everybody, just stop the puck how I would stop the puck. That's why if you look back at, you know, old games, even when we were growing up, every goalie had a specific style. They did not make saves the same. It was kind of cool because they were all so different. But having the understanding of where you are in the net, where you have to go, thinking, you know, 2 shots ahead or 2 plays ahead, giving yourself the best chance percentage-wise at a certain angle or on a certain type of play, making little adjustments, watching video. You know, to me, watching video is one of the most helpful tools that I ever had, because you think you know what you're doing, and then if someone says, hey, you know, you're getting spread out, or you're leaving this, you know, a little exposed on these certain screen plays or whatever, and then but to actually see it, it was such a powerful thing to me to help me make those adjustments, because I'm like, oh, okay, I was doing that. And but that to me, and the position, and now what you guys do, and you guys are training kids of all ages from, I don't know how, probably 5, 6 years old all the way up, you know, to pro guys and junior guys. So the kids now, when I see them out here in the youth, you know, at the rinks and stuff, I'm blown away because of how technical and then the way that they understand the game. So, you know, when we're talking right now, I would have never understood any of this lingo until I was probably 25 years old almost. And now it's been coming, you know, especially with the Zoom calls, the educational videos that you guys put out. It's been I think the one position maybe in all of sports that's evolved the most over the last 20 years.
Yeah, I
but
agree.
It's incredible.
I definitely agree with that. I think the speed of the game and just all the changes kind of we talked about too, it forced you to change, right? And then your limitations, like it's the one position that they're always kind of, we're fighting against the league because they're trying to make our job harder.
Yeah, they want more goals, right? And it's our job and your job and all the goaltenders out there to combat that somehow. And I think the training, and I think the resources too, with obviously the ability to put out videos online and to teach like that. And for you guys, I know for me, I really learned a lot by watching other goaltenders. I had, you know, a few different goalie coaches over my career, and you know, there's little things when I think about my playing that I really took from each one and really liked, and I was able to adapt, because, you know, I can't do what Carey Price does, and I can't do what Marc-Andre Fleury does. So some of the things that they're able to do, you have to know your own limitations, and you know, as well, with the things that you select and the things that you can actually pull off. And you know, for me, that was definitely one of the biggest things that helped me stay in my career, because I remember one year when Carey Price and those kind of goaltenders came into the league, and they were so good with their edges and just their calm demeanor, and there's no scramble. And, you know, he's a special goaltender, but a lot of that younger group was more reserved. And, you know, at the end of the day, when you're a goaltender, you can work hard, and that's great to have that work ethic. You can't go after the play. So, you know, to understand that eventually that puck's coming back to you. You know, put yourself in the best position. But Swanee, you mentioned the rotations and, you know, the pushes and all those things. I spent a whole summer driving up to Calgary, working on that every single day. Probably 4 or 5 times during the week I would go up, and I would work on that, just my rotations, getting my body, making sure my arms weren't way out here when I was doing that rotation, and getting everything tight, because the game was changing. I knew if I didn't do that, you know, I was gone. So I was able to end up playing about 4 or 5 more years because of it. But yeah, it's still evolving. But now, you know, it's just amazing to watch some of these guys and these goaltenders that are, you know, 6'4", 6'5", and they can move like, you know, like the speed of light, and they're so technical. And I don't know how guys score goals anymore, but, you know, you guys see some of these shooters too. They can, you leave a corner right here, they're putting it right under that under the bar. So it's I love it though. It's awesome.
See, the guys that would kind of like almost amaze me the most now, Mace, would be like the UC Saros, I think, in the league. That they're his footwork is second to none, and his reads, I think, being a smaller guy.
It really is. I retired. I came back to Nashville and I went to training camp and I saw him for the first time. And now, now the guys, there's not many small goaltenders. I think there's only 3 guys in the league, I think, that are under 6 feet. He's one of them. But his ability, I was blown away. He's almost, to me, the perfect goaltender in terms of the technical aspect of his game, because he's so connected to the puck, his reads, but the way that his body's able to just instantly, fire, it's almost like a robot that's, just synced into where the puck is. And he's a small guy and he's not overly aggressive. He stays back. But the biggest thing, he came in the league, he did a great job, but he started getting beat up high. So, the next year, and we have all the analytics now. So he's one of the, a lot of the goals were going up here. He was, middle of the road to bottom of the league in terms of that. He had great statistics, but, guys figure you out. They get a book on you. And then he did the next year, his goalie coach here is Ben Vanderklok. They did such a good job of readjusting him. So now he's more upright in his stance and his hands. He'll go down and he's a smaller guy, but his hands are just up here. They're so connected to the puck, and he's just aware of the game. He's a student of the game, watches the video. They see where all the goals are and they know, but the ability to make adjustments. Once a shooter makes an adjustment to a goaltender, which happens in a league, you got every league, you get to junior, guys come in, they figure you out a little bit, and you have to be able to adapt and to change your style a little bit to combat that. But Saros is, man, his edge work, his speed, the way that he's just able to fill net as a small guy is incredible. I love watching him. I think he's the best technical goaltender in the league. And maybe I'm biased, but I get to see him every game and every practice, and he just blows me away. If I was a young goaltender, especially at my size or that kind of, that's the guy I would watch how he plays every single day to give yourself a chance, because he's a stud.
Question about him there, like when you're watching warmups or I guess pregame skating practices and stuff, there's kind of been a new trend where guys they're not just warming up in the crease every time, like the crease pattern, the typical like crease pattern that we do forever at goalie camps. Is he a guy that does a lot more kind of line work, uses the whole ice? Like, what does his warm up look like? Obviously, Pekka is still kind of the guy who's playing most of the games, right? So I know he's not a true backup now, so he's probably not in the backup mold of what used to be, right? Out first and off last, but just maybe walk through a little bit if you can kind of remember what maybe his on-ice prep looks like to be such a good skater.
Yeah, they do. They do a lot of realistic situations, and they'll both still go. Like Pekka, who's ever playing, they're kind of like, I'd say almost to the point where they're 50-50 who's ever hot's going to play. Saros has gotten to that point where, and you know what it's like in the NHL. It's not like it used to be where you're going to let your starter run. Hey, you know what? You had a tough game, put him back out. Had another tough one. They keep rolling. Every guy in this league is so good now, and especially in the situation with Pekka and Saros. So their preparation, he was playing a lot at the end of the season there, and he was rolling. But they'll still go. These guys, they work their butts off. They go out every day early, even pregame skate, and they'll stay late. But a lot of it's all game type of drills, and they'll do their little warm ups. He's more of he just likes to take to get his backward momentum. He'll take kind of one step and kind of turn and push.
Yeah.
But it's all about his hands and his stick. He'll always, like you guys, I'm sure, say, always connecting your head to puck or where you're going. Even when you're doing the drills without a puck, the one thing I find about these guys is they're very disciplined on that. And once they get their rotation, your upper body rotates, your lower body goes with you, and then it's all about going over, and then they recover up a lot. Saros always tries to get back to his feet. So a lot of the drills, he'll do it in a standing position. He'll go down and then back up, or he'll start down and he'll push across and then go back up as well. Yeah. But he does a lot of those kind of the angles where he's maybe at the corner, the top of the crease, and he'll go back to the post, and to try to get that next center angle. But he always kind of goes back to that position, that center angle of where the puck's coming from.
Yeah.
He does a lot of that. So it's a lot of rotations, a lot of slides, and then back up, set, and then he'll kind of readjust his depth to come back out if he's got enough time on that second shot. So he does a lot of that kind of just fluid motion. Totally.
Like and all edge work stuff, eh? That's unreal.
Yeah. All edge work. And it's all about getting the next angle of where that puck's going.
Yeah. No, that's cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love watching them. I should take more videos too. I every once in a while I'll take videos of stuff they're doing. I get right behind the net when I'm, watching the pregame skates and stuff, and just to watch their movement and put it out there. But he's unreal.
So we talk about those two guys, Pecker and you say Saros, and I've read a lot that they have a really close relationship. Like they're, on the ice, off the ice, really supportive of each other. Sort of when you were playing, was there specific guys when you were playing that, you took some things from, or maybe you thought you were working hard and then you saw a guy that was, doing 10 times more? Was there any guys throughout your career that maybe did that for you?
Well, I had a lot of guys, as you guys know too, like the goalies, even though we were compete for ice time and everybody wants to be the starter, the goalies were always my best friends. And, we just relate to each other, right? When I have a tough game, if you're my partner, you know exactly what I'm going for. And even though you want to play, you're going to pick me up and vice versa. So it's kind of a special relationship, I think, that you have with your goalie partner and with your goalie coach. But there was a lot of guys. Thomas Faucoon, we were the same age, and he had a similar career path as I did, and he got his first opportunity in Nashville. And he was one of those guys. He was a Czech guy, wasn't a high prospect, but he just continued to work his butt off. And as you guys know, the higher you get, the harder you have to work. But the one eye-opener for me, and it was one of the biggest ones, because I always prided myself on my work ethic, and that was kind of my MO. I worked as hard as I could all the time on the ice. But I had, after my second year pro, and now I was in Milwaukee. We had the end of the year meetings, and the goalie coach, I was in there with the goalie coach, the strength coach, and the coaches, and they said, Mace, you had a good season. We love you. You work really hard on the ice, and all this kind of stuff. He's like, but do you want to play in the National Hockey League? And I was like, yeah, I want to play in the NHL more than anything. And the strength coach took over. And he said, well, you're not doing nearly enough off the ice. He's like, if you ever want to play in the National Hockey League, and you ever want a shot, he's like, you got to get in the gym, and you got to start paying a lot more attention to your off ice. And it kind of took me back, because, the meeting was going so long. I know they did it for effect, but to get to that level, the extra stuff that you have to do. And now, you guys got programs, there's nutrition. Back then was kind of the era where, goalies didn't really have to work out, right? I never really did that a lot. But that summer, I ended up losing 20 pounds, probably a little too much. I was 210 pounds. I went down to like 190 or something like that. Lost a bunch of weight and just trained, and completely changed, my mindset and my life basically as a goaltender. And then, fitness, eye exercise, all these different things became part of, my routine. So, but I had a lot of goalies too that they would do that, and I didn't really. I'm like, you didn't have to do it. They weren't making you accountable. You just had to be accountable to yourself. And I thought as long as I worked hard on the ice, that'd be fine. So that meeting in particular really, really had an impact on me. But I tried to learn from every single guy I played with. When I told you I was up in Calgary all those times, 4 or 5 times a week, I would learn from the 13, 14, 15-year-old goalie that I was skating with, because they already knew how to do those techniques. So I would do drills with them. They would be in the net, and I was watching exactly how they were doing it. And, when you're in the net and someone's telling you, and you've never done something before, do this, you don't know quite if you're doing it right, or, you learn, you have to develop that muscle memory. But a lot of the things is the powerful thing is to watch somebody else do it and then try to emulate them. So I learned from, I try to learn from everybody. But, Thomas Faucoon is one of those guys that not only did he work his butt off on the ice, he was such a hard worker off the ice too. And he had a similar thing where he was heavier, lost a bunch of weight, and then he became a fitness freak. So it's kind of cool. A lot of guys had an impact on me.
I think that's pretty cool, and sort of speaks to your character as well. Obviously I know you, and for you to, as a NHL pro, to be able to, like you said, learn from a 13, 14-year-old. Like, a lot of guys wouldn't do that. They would be stubborn, they would be set in their ways. But for you to make that switch and be humble enough to learn, probably really extended your career by quite a bit, I would imagine.
Oh, it did for sure. I had to do that. Guys were doing it, and you're getting, it just helps your consistency in terms of making the same save on the same situations, instead of getting into a situation where, pucks going across, and all of a sudden one time you're up, you're standing across, the next time you're diving around, putting 2 arms out hoping it hits you. And it did. It extended my career for at least 3 or 4 years. No question. And you got to do that. And, the cool thing is when those kids were doing the drills, I was able to help them too, because you guys know this as well. When you get so good at a drill and you know what's coming, you almost you lose sight of the puck in terms of connecting your eyes visually. So, I was able to remind the kids, and when we did the live drills, because they would be amazing in the practice drills, but when we did the live drills and some of the things where they're throwing, the shooter can either come down the side and he can either shoot or pass, you get so locked in and almost frozen. So the ability to just, wait and be patient and, let the shooter kind of dictate what you do instead of deciding, all right, I'm going to go down right now because he's coming at the angle, then he passes across. Yeah. And, then you're dead in the water. But if you really get connected to the puck and to what the player, his body language and what signs he's given you, you can maybe stay on your feet for a half second longer. So if he decides to pass the puck, then you can, then you get a good push across or whatever. So it was cool. But I think as a goalie, you got an opportunity to learn from every single person you come in contact with.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty cool point for the young kids, listening, watching in here too. So, Lanny, if you have any other questions, and then Mace, I have some quick hits for you at the end, and then we can let you get on to your probably gorgeous day in Nashville.
Right on.
Yeah, I guess I could lead in a couple quick hits here, Swanee. I was wondering, because Mace, you came up when I was fully involved and dialed into the NHL game. So I'm curious, who's the best shooter you would have faced? The purest goal scorer?
Best shooter that I ever faced, without a doubt, and I played in the Central Division pretty much my whole career, was Pavel Datsyuk. He was unbelievable because, the amount of video you do in the NHL, I remember, doing shootout videos, and it's funny, you find patterns of guys. So guys, if they're going to come down this side, they have a move. If they come down the opposite side, so it gives you a little information, and they'll change, and the guys have their heads up. But really, you can find a lot of patterns in what guys do if you watch them long enough. Where they shoot, if they're cutting across the middle, if the guy likes to go far side, or if he likes, try to beat you low over the blocker, or if he likes to curl back and, shoot against the grain and try to beat you over the glove side or whatever. So that information helps. You can't rely 100% on it, but for Pavel Datsyuk, you could never read the guy. He had no patterns. He was one of the hardest working guys. He's the shiftiest guy, but he would do something different every single time. He would give you zero information. You couldn't read his body. He was always kind of moving his hands and his upper body, and you never knew when that shot was coming, or he would hold it out there and just delay. He was just, to me, the hardest guy. And I played against Crosby. I played against Ovechkin. These guys are obviously unbelievable too. Yeah. There's no question. But Pavel Datsyuk was the guy that I thought was just, I was in awe of him, watching him and playing against him, because I could never get a read. I never knew exactly what he was doing until he did it. So I think that's, to me, that's one of the most impressive players that I ever played against.
That's cool. That's really cool. I would have the opportunity, like when I went to Wings camp, I spent like a week, whatever, going to the main camp there, and I was on his team. So I saw him for about 3 practices, and I can attest that he's the best player I've ever seen on the ice.
It's unreal. He's just, and what's funny too, you see him off the ice. I see him off the ice, and he's kind of, I don't know, I call him like Kaiser Sose. Your kids have seen that movie Usual Suspects, but it's a great movie, but he kind of has a little limp, and he doesn't look like an athlete really. And
totally.
Yeah, right. Like he's just, kind of a nerdy looking guy, and man, but when he gets on the ice, he was just blown away. Best player that I played against or faced, I think. So that's cool.
Great. That's great. Swanee, take it away.
All right, that's cool. Okay, some quick hits here. So you're obviously involved. You're watching a lot of NHL, but you're also traveling. So best city on the road.
City on the road, man. There's so many, but I'd have to say Vancouver's my favorite. I love going back to Canada for one, but I think Vancouver's it's such a beautiful city, and usually we get to spend a couple days there because we're going to go on the Western swing. We'll hit up Calgary, Edmonton. I love Calgary. Just because it's close to town, and that's my area. But I'd say for me, if I had to pick one, it'd be Vancouver.
Cool. How about the best NHL arena?
Best NHL arena. They're all unbelievable now. My favorite to play in was a Saddle Dome. just for personal reasons. But I'd say one of the nicest ones and funnest ones to go in, I know they kind of suck right now, but I love going to play in LA. I love the Staples Center. I wouldn't say it's the best arena. I just, for whatever reason, I played well there during my career. I love going. I love playing there, and man, they're all incredible. They're all starting to look kind of the same a little bit, but I love the Staples Center. I'm not sure if many people would pick that as their favorite, but I love playing there, and I love going back to the Saddle Dome. I'm going to miss if they ever decide to replace that and get a new one. I'm going to miss that place, but I love playing in Calgary.
Well, that's pretty cool. I imagine lots of the Chris Mason fan club out at the Saddle Dome back in the days when you were playing there for sure. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, all three of them, my family.
Yeah, right. Okay, a couple more quick hits. So right now, obviously, you're seeing a lot of NHL goalies. You see some more than others. We'll take the two Nashville guys out of the equation, but you're probably your one or two favorite goalies right now in the game to watch.
I say my one or two favorite right now. I love Braden Holtby. I think I love watching him play. I love watching all the little nuances. I know he's a very superstitious, when he even just all the little things that I didn't know that you learn about guys now with all the, media availability, how he, after he lets in a goal, he shoots up his water and then he tries to track the drops down and things like that. I really like watching him play. He's just good on the eyes. He moves well. He's kind of he's a battler, but he's really structured, powerful skater. I love watching him. And there's been a couple guys in my life where I've watched, and I'll like you said, take the Nashville guys out of it. But I remember a few years before he got big, when Tampa was carrying three guys, Andrei Vasilevsky. He just friggin' blew me out of the water. Just his size, his athleticism, his structure, flexibility, everything. I watched him for an hour in practice, and I was just blown away. And this is before he got big. They had three guys there. They had another, I think it was a Latvian there. But anyway, I watch him now. Now you see him play, and he's just a freak. So those two guys, and they're both in the Eastern Conference. There's a lot of other guys. I like that Pavel Francouz that's coming into the league, new guy. I really enjoy watching him, but those are probably a couple of my faves right now.
Nice. Okay, two more. On the player side, like who's the most exciting player to watch when you're up top? You got the view from up top. Like who's gets you out of your seat? You're like, wow, this guy's good.
Yeah, obviously there's Connor McDavid. Obviously, Draisaitl too. He's in a different way. But the guy that I love watching, and I see him a ton, is Nathan McKinnon. I just think the way that he changes speeds, and if you ever really just iso cam him, his hands are always moving, like he's always shifting like this, and it's really quick, and he does it at full speed, and you can just see, he makes some of the best defensemen. They can't read the guy, so one-on-one, he's so hard to defend, and for a goalie, like we're talking about Datsuk, you can't read the guy because his hands will be going back, and all of a sudden he'll just rip one, or he'll get a delay, and you just never know what he's going to do. But the way that he's able to control the puck at full speed and the quickness of his hands, and the way that he's able to execute, obviously a lot of guys try to do that and they can't do it. But every time he gets on the ice, it's just, he's zipping around the zone, and guys, they can't hit him because they don't know what he's going to do. And he's always shifting. He'll get his feet going, and then he'll be on his edges with his hands moving, and guys never know which way he's going to go. So the way that he controls the game when the puck's on his stick is, to me, it's the most exciting player that I watch on a regular basis.
That'll be a sore spot for the Calgary Flames fans here, that after what he did to us in the first round last year. But
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exciting, dynamic player. Okay. So my vote would be Saros for this next question. So we'll take him out of it. But the most underrated NHL goalie, in your opinion?
Wow. Most underrated NHL goalie. I think there's a lot there. I think, Rittich, I think, is starting to put a name in for himself. I think I don't know if I'd say he's underrated, but I don't think he gets as much love as he should. Saros for sure. Pavel Francouz, I think, maybe not underrated. There's, nobody really knew about him, but he took that job over. One of the best guys in the league. And if I'm going to look at a guy that I don't think is getting the respect, from teams in terms of contracts, is Robin Lehner. I think is a guy that, he obviously he's got his well-documented, problems that he's had with substance abuse, mental health issues and all this, and he's been a great advocate for that. But I still don't think that people maybe in the hierarchy of the NHL consider him to be one of the best goalies in the league. And the more that I watch him, I'm impressed by the way that he's, maybe once he came out of the recovery and everything, but his game now, and it's not the prettiest, I would say, to watch, but the way that I think he really follows the puck well, and he's really evolving, and he's turning into one of the best goalies in the league, especially under pressure. And I just don't think that people maybe put him in that top tier when I think that he's good enough to be there.
Yeah,
that's the perfect mold of being that 1A, 1B guy, I think.
Yeah, and there's a lot more of that, right? You see that around the league. Here, same thing. Pecorino's been a Vezina winner. He's had his illustrious career. And, now you get these guys that every game, missing the playoffs, making the playoffs, it's 3 or 4 games during the season, those 4 or 5 points they either don't get or get are so important. So now coaches and now you got to put the guy in that's playing well, whether, you got Marc-Andre Fleury, who, multi-Stanley Cup winner, one of the best guys to ever play, or you have whoever, whether it was Malcolm Subban, whether it's Robin Lehner, you got the 1A, 1B with those two, you got to go with the guys. So the teams are really, understanding the value of having those two guys, the 2 top guys. So yeah, he's a lot of good guys out there now, I'll tell you.
Yeah, that's a great answer. And I think if you look at the goalie analytics side of things, like he's been top for the last few years, and he's done it under like 2 totally different defensive systems. So that's pretty impressive too. So I like that answer. Mace, we could probably go on for 2-3 hours. Like, we didn't touch on your world championships. We didn't touch on the gold in 06, 07. You got the silver. You had the best goals against, best save percentage. We didn't even get any of that stuff. So we could talk for hours about goaltending, but really appreciate you coming on and giving some insight into for our young goalies and any goalie parents listening in here. So thanks for taking the time. You're a good guy, and I'm glad things are going well for you down in Nashville. And hopefully we get back to, we'll be able to see you on TV here pretty soon with some hockey.
Yeah, I'm sure the people are missing my ugly mug on the TV screens right about now. So
absolutely.
No, thanks for having me on. No, thanks, Lanny. Thanks, Swanee. Anytime you guys want to do this again, I'd love to love chatting goalies all the time. So thank you guys.
Thanks a lot, Mace. Yeah, we appreciate it. It's been great.
All right, we'll see you later, goalies.